Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is something I feel pretty strongly about. And that is, we're having a new Scots Housing Fair in Inverclyde, which is Greenock, on the 11th of June. Solely for immigrants and not for the people Indigenous to Scotland. Now, this is worrying for me because the Scottish Government last year put out what's called a national housing crisis, where basically they said we don't have enough houses for the amount of people we've got here or expecting to have here. And we know all those stories of people who are homeless through no fault of their own and have to wait an exuberant length of time to actually get suitable housing, particularly when there's families involved. They can sometimes have to wait really long times because, they might need 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms depending on the size of their family unit. Also, it's no surprise, it's no secret that we have a ridiculous amount of our ex-service personnel on waiting lists or homeless. And that isn't right, however you want to chew it up. Proud to say that the SDP, the party I'm the leader for in Scotland, have a policy whereby servicemen and family units would be priority on any social housing. And this is what this project's all about. It's to bring people together who can help and advise the best ways to get you social housing. However, this event is uniquely for what they term New Scots, which everybody else understands as immigrants. That means Indigenous people are banned. They've not to get any help at this event for New Scots. And that cannot be right. As I've said many times, and I can't see it handy, anybody who's a UK citizen, I normally hold my passport up at this time, they should be the priority for a country. And if you're American, America should have you as your priority. If you're German, and so forth and so forth. The people of that nation should be at the top of the priority list for a country. And we sadly in the United Kingdom continue to let our own people down and put them at the back of the queue. And I don't think that's fair, just, or correct. And I'm going to use for reference here the Greenock Telegraph. Now the Greenock Telegraph, or the Tilly as it's called down locally. I worked down in Greenock in the 90s, mid to late 90s. And at that time when people bought newspapers, although this is a regional local paper, it was actually read more than the largest papers in the rest of Scotland. It was the paper of choice for everybody. Greenock, Gourock, Port Glasgow area. Being in the Tilly was as good or as bad as being in the Daily Record or the Sun in the day. So although it's a small outlet in terms of national coverage, it is a good outlet. So their headline, a new Scots Housing Fair set to take place in Greenock, written by Claire Lindsay. A housing fair for refugees and asylum seekers is set to take place in Greenock. The new Scots Housing Fair, hosted by Scottish Refugee Council, will be held on June 11th at Lyle Gateway Church. It will bring together housing providers, support organisations and community members with the aim of improving access to information and services for New Scots and fostering community integration. The event will feature stalls from various associations, authorities and support groups, with interpreters provided. Emily Edwards, Housing Development Officer at the Scottish Refugee Council, said, "Safe and secure housing is the foundation for rebuilding lives. We are delighted to bring the new Scots Housing Fair to Greenock, where communities are working together to create a welcoming environment for those starting new lives in Scotland." A spokesperson said, we have attended Scottish Refugee Council's previous events and enjoyed meeting with New Scots in person to chat about their housing needs. A few have gone on to settle in Inverclyde. We're excited at the upcoming New Scots Housing Fair taking place in Inverclyde for the first time. The free event will run from 11 to 1 p.m. Now, I'm not saying I'm totally against this notion, right? But what I'm totally baffled by is the severe lack of current Scot housing fairs. Now, if we do them, or we just have a housing fair, then I think that's probably a far fairer way to put all this resource into an event where you're actually excluding the very people you should be serving as a priority. I've never seen a ex-service Scottish Housing Fair or a homeless family Scottish Housing Fair where a lot of resource and help is put and made available to those two groups. And I find it quite sickening that if anybody who wasn't a New Scot, i.e. a Scottish family, or indeed some of our ex-service personnel who are not on the housing ladder, are excluded for this event. And what I would probably suggest is they should go and actually be turned away. People I know are homeless. Families I know are homeless. There's a guy I'm trying to get hold of, but unfortunately due to circumstances out with my control that most of you will know about, Police Scotland have got my telephone right now and I can't phone him. But I would have personally driven him down there and asked if he could get help to help his family, who were made homeless through no fault of their own. The long-term private landlord that they had to sell his house pretty quick. Staying up to date with events around the world can be difficult, where it's impossible to consult a single source for the full story. Narratives that shape public opinion often just reinforce media and corporate-backed vested interests. It's hard to know what information to trust. See what the media is exaggerating, sensationalising, over or under reporting. That's why I've been using Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that combines news from around the world in one place so you can compare coverage. For every news source, you can see if it has any political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and who owns them. They even have a blind spot feed that highlights news disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. Take a data-driven view on the news and stay current. Get news from thousands of sources worldwide in one place. I've been using Ground News to help me get all the world's news in one place and give a more balanced opinion on what we read and viewing who is telling us the truth and who isn't. Subscribe via my link to get 40% off the Vantage subscription. It's the one I use to get unlimited access to every feature. Your subscription can not only help my channel, but also help Ground News, as it makes the media landscape more transparent. And therefore they became homeless, and are still so now. They're spread over about a 30-mile radius, with some of the family in Glasgow and the rest of the family with some of their family putting them up in Ayrshire. And that's a family unit split up through no fault of their own, and they can't have access to this event because they're not New Scots, they're just Scots. And this term New Scots, I don't know why we need it. It's like all these other words that we invent recently. Is it to soften the blow? I don't believe in it. I mean, what is a New Scot? Is that a newborn baby? Well, no. How you interpret that is immigrants, asylum seekers, legal or otherwise. And I don't like this. I don't like this exclusivity of help to the people that I am a part of a community. Everybody is allowed, to have community involvement and, push for their communities, unless you are Indigenous to these lands. The minute you start doing things like I do, and you push for representation for our own people, you suddenly get brandished far right, as I have in the newspapers recently, racist, as I have in the newspapers recently, and that's ridiculous. Because we must be the only Indigenous people anywhere in the world that aren't allowed to speak up for their own rights. You go and look at Eskimos up in Alaska, or Indigenous Kiwis, Aborigines in Australia, Native Americans in the USA. They're all given protected spaces. We are not. We are told, New Scots Housing Fair, Greenock, 11th of June. Come along and we'll help you get your way into social housing. And these people do deserve help with that. But so do the people of this nation. And the United Kingdom are letting them down tragically. If you enjoyed this video and you want others to see it, please hit the thumbs up, put comments below and hit the share button. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. However, the most important thing of all, unless you're the type of person that wants to exclude the good people of this nation from any help in securing social housing, then not you. But everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.